Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers and happy 6-9 Bill and Ted Day to all who celebrate. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me today, it is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor. What's going on today, Chuck?
I had a great, relaxing weekend. I honestly, my weekend was fantastic.
Given all of the rumors that started flying, I don't know, like an hour after we got home from here on Friday, I thought it was going to be perhaps a much busier weekend for the two of us.
No.
But
nothing happened.
Here we are, and nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened.
So we're going to get into all of that on today's show. But first, we got to tell you to hit that like button. We are back in studio. We can see the number, and we're going to hold you accountable. So hit that freaking like button. And then come on out to our draft party. It is, I think 18 days away is the count I took prior to the show. Okay. It is Friday, June 27th at 7 p.m. Chickies and Pete's in South Philadelphia, brought to you by our friends at Philly Sports Trips. You know, it's in conjunction with our friends at Broad Street Hockey. Always an awesome time. Our biggest event of the year is our draft party.
Yep.
So come on out. Go to allphly.com now. Get your tickets. $5 general admission. That's going to be a great time. We're going to be back in bookbinders, live show, all of that like last year. But for a mere $55, you can get the VIP experience, which includes a 3-hour open bar and boom, paid for itself right there. 3-hour open bar, plus apps and a meet and greet with Flyers legend, the 2-time Vezina winner, 2-time Conn Smythe winner, Hockey Hall of Famer himself, Bernie Parent. I mean, if any Flyers legend you are going to sit down and talk to, it's Bert. Like
the man, the myth, the legend.
He's the absolute freaking greatest guy. And you're going to get a chance, plus 3-hour open bar, all that stuff. Whatever you want to do, go to allphly.com and get your tickets now. All right, Chuck. Maxim Shabanov.
So for those,
he's not a Flyer yet.
Yeah. So for those who are not of the online variety, I think most of our regular,
great for you if you're
regular
not.
Viewers, regular listeners are of the online variety. But there are more than you would think.
Yes.
People who watch our show who are not, constantly refreshing Twitter or whatever your social media site du jour is. This kicked up the afternoon of Friday. So probably right around when we were going live. And the Flyers have been linked really probably since around like January to Maxim Shabanov, who is a high-scoring 24-year-old Russian forward who plays in the KHL. Alex Appleyard did a great piece on European UFAs a few weeks ago. He ranked Shabanov as his top European UFA. It has been rumored for a while that Shabanov is looking to give the NHL a shot. And we're talking about one of the top scorers in the KHL. It's exciting. And the Flyers back in January linked to him. Alex Appleyard basically threw some cold water on that, said he talked to their Russian agency, and they said, yeah, we talked to some teams. Flyers aren't one of them. But then a few weeks ago, it kicked back up again. I believe Anthony Sanfilippo reported that the Flyers were back in on Shabanov, whether they weren't in January. They certainly are now. And it has been speculated in league circles that the Flyers are at the top of his list. Them, and Vegas were the two teams that were speculated as being top of the list. On Friday, it started being reported in Russian circles,
news outlets,
Russian news outlets, Russian news outlets, websites, whatever you want to call it, that Shabanov was going to Philly. That he'd made the decision, that it was going to happen. And then, of course, everyone went crazy because it's exciting. Yeah, we're talking about a top-tier European UFA who scored a ton of points in probably the second-best league in the world. That is exciting.
Finalist for the Golden Stick this past season, which is the KHL MVP. Third in the league in regular season points. Led the postseason in goals with 10. Led the KHL plus minus in goals and KHL playoffs in goals and plus minus. Like this guy, he turns 25 in October. He's not yet 25 years old. Has one hell of a resume.
He does.
It's exciting that, especially considering the competition, Vegas, perennial contender, tax-free state, that the Flyers and like, okay, we beat out them like that. And not that he's just good. Like he's very, this is an exciting proposition.
He's intriguing.
Yeah.
And all this cost is a 1-year entry-level contract. It's not like you're breaking the bank for him. It's not like you're tied to him for a long time. So you're basically just getting an intriguing youngish player for free, aside from whatever you have to pay him on the entry-level deal, which isn't going to be a ton. So that was exciting, understandably. But it does seem like, at the very least, this was premature. Doesn't mean they're not going to get him. It just means that
could happen in the next 55 minutes.
This, at least what came out on Friday, was more Russian gossip than actual this is done and the announcement is inevitable. The Flyers, through multiple people, were basically like, look, we're in on him and we want him to sign, but this is not done. We have not heard a final, like, yes, I am going to sign with you. So we're paying attention to this too, but we don't know where this certainty is coming from. Now, let me be clear. If I had to guess, I would guess that regardless of what the Flyers are telling all of us in the journalism community, I would guess they know more than what they are claiming they know based on the way that the Michkov thing went, where they didn't know anything until they knew everything, and then they've been working on it for weeks. Yeah. So I would guess that there is more going on here, but I do think that it is not done and it is not a certainty.
And that's exactly as you said, whether it's been Kolosov and Fedotov or Michkov, like it's always, we don't know. What do you know? We don't know anything. Hey, I don't know. And then suddenly it's like we're having a press conference. They're here.
Right.
You know, like these things don't come together that way. Like with Michkov, it seemed if you wanted to like put some pieces together, like, oh yeah, we knew all along, you know, that he was coming over, and like whether they did or they didn't, it all worked out. But Keith Jones said recently, hey, and it was about something else entirely, but hey, you've seen how things have unfolded for us over the last couple of years. You're not going to know anything until it's done. Like, and listen, this is coming from somewhere else. Like we found out eventually the Sanheim Krug, that whole thing. It was like, yeah, man, that leak was out of St. Louis. Nothing we can do about that. Yeah. But that's kind of seems like what's happening with Russia right now, where Flyers are just going, yeah. We'll let you know when we know something, and any news is coming from the other end of this, and we
can't. That is very much what it seems like.
Can't really. I don't know, how familiar are you with Russian news outlets? You know, we've learned about @Hockey News Hub in the last couple of years, and like RG Media, which is apparently a thing recently.
Yeah, RG Media seems like they are getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, they're establishing themselves.
It's just like these things pop up, and then we know about them, but I have no idea what sort of weight to put into these rumors. But I don't know. All signs seem to be, I bet he signs with the Flyers, but who's to say until it actually happens? The fact that this was really picking up steam like Friday afternoon, I thought for sure that you and I would be doing an emergency pod yesterday, or we'd be coming in at noon today being like, Flyers signed Maxim Shabanov. And
the Shabanov show.
As of 12:09 on Monday, the 9th, I got nothing. Maybe, but we have no idea. But that's not going to stop us from talking about it.
I think there's a general, it's generally fair to say that where there's smoke, there's fire. And this was coming from enough people on Friday that I can't imagine it's all just invented. And the fact that the Flyers, before the Flyers were just like, Maxim Shabanov, who's that? Who is he? I've never heard of him. Huh? Now the Flyers are more being like, yeah, I mean, we want him. Yeah. But we haven't heard anything that's been finalized. It's not done. He needs to make a decision. We're crossing our fingers. That tells me that, okay, there's something there. And with a lot of the way this Russian stuff tends to work, especially when it's coming out in Russian publications, is it's just gossip, but it's gossip coming from almost like, Shabanov's cousin's friend told me
is the writer
told me that he's coming to Philly. And like, that's where it comes from. And also the one thing you also have to remember, look, on the books, this will be an entry-level deal worth $900,000 or whatever. This is still Russia. perhaps some money has to change hands that you can't talk about.
Ivan Fedotov signs extension. Wow, that's weird. They gave him another $3 million? Why? He's no good. This is strange. Liz, who the hell knows?
But seriously,
yeah,
like
it's insane how the NHL is, I guess, a major league, but it is a major business, a multinational league. And still there's this other element that doesn't seem like this would never even happen. I feel like this doesn't happen with the NBA, even though they have players from other countries that come. It really doesn't. Yeah. This just seems like such a uniquely NHL thing.
I think it's
we got to pay off some oligarchs.
I think it's a uniquely Russian thing.
Yes,
because you look at the best. What are the two best countries in Europe? It's Spain and Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Russia. Russia is its own entity.
We're getting we think we're going to be able to sign this KHL MVP finalists, but we haven't been able to wire the money to the right oligarch yet. So don't report anything. Everybody back off. We'll see how this all goes. But
the fact that there's this much smoke,
it has to mean something.
It should tell you that, number one, the Flyers are legitimately in on this guy. Number two, decent enough chance this ends with him as a Flyer, not a certainty. And, that's why when on Friday all this is coming out, I'm just kind of all right, let's, if I can confirm it, or if an Elliot Friedman can confirm it, then let's roll with an emergency pod. But this is not as close as it maybe seems like if you're on Twitter and everyone is just super excited about a cool thing.
It was 3:30 on Friday afternoon, so I'd already started grilling. Maybe had some Pabst Lights, and I was only gonna go with an emergency pod if I have notifications on for Charlie and I have notifications on for Friedman. And if I got one of those, we were going. If not, let's hold off. But let's go forward as if it's probably going to happen.
Okay. I make it clear that I am not yet going to go that far.
It may happen.
The Flyers are clearly interested in this guy, and he is a legitimate option to be a Flyer next year. Because I would guess that he's not coming over to join the AHL.
It seems
like they just don't like the AHL.
That's not a thing. He ain't coming, especially if his other option was Vegas. All right, Philly, it's a major metropolitan area. Oh yeah, Allentown. I don't. Let me talk to my friend Alexi about that. See what he has to say. All right. So Shabanov, we go through we showed you the numbers. Third leading scorer in the KHL last year. Led the playoffs in goals. He's pretty damn good. Doesn't turn 25 till October. The drawback, or really? It's that he's 5'8" and under 160. That is, by any metric, a tiny hockey player.
Yeah.
He's not a big dude.
He's small.
And I want to tie this into what we talked about on Friday, Charlie. The idea of, the Flyers probably need to get bigger, and we know they want to get bigger on the back end, and hence the Nick Hague rumors. And you start wondering, okay, how what fits, what works here? And the idea of Bobby Brink pops up. And I'm not all out on the I got time for Nick Hague. I got time for this conversation, and I do want the team to get bigger. But I think Bobby Brink is just kind of good. I think his ceiling is higher than that of Nick Hague, so I kind of want to see what Brink becomes if this is my option. Not that interested. If suddenly the Flyers add another undersized scoring winger, I guess I'm more open to the possibility of a Brink, or you brought up Peltier. Yeah, sure, Peltier all day. No idea what this guy is.
Right.
But moving out a Brink for, maybe a guy who doesn't help you in the skill area of the game, but helps you in other ways. I'm far more open to it if they have essentially a Brink replacement.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far, because while Shabanov would be an exciting, mystery box, he could even be a boat kind of player. Yeah. We know that Bobby Brink is an NHL caliber winger, and a pretty darn good one. Not a great one, but a guy who, if he's in your middle six, you're I like that. Shabanov could be a boat. he could be a 60 point, 70 point winger who you can play on your second line or even your first line, depending upon who his line mates are. He could also flop. Like, it is not a certainty. So I'm not super comfortable with the idea of like, just because you get Shabanov, then you can immediately sell Brink. That said, you then would have 2 5'8" wingers, and you'd also have, Michkov, who's probably 5'10", and you have Konechny, who's probably also 5'10", and maybe even 5'9". And yeah, you're getting pretty small on the wing, to be sure. The one part that is interesting about this, because you just mentioned a few minutes ago that the Flyers have been rumored to be in competition with Vegas for Shabanov. I wonder if these are linked, where it's like
all these things,
where it's like okay, like if we both want this 5'8" wing,
yeah.
If we get the 5'8" wing, we'll trade you our 5'8" wing.
It does feel
it's interesting.
Like there's something I'm always just connecting dots that may or may not actually have a connection.
But it's weird.
But it does feel as if there's something to this.
It's
here.
Weird.
Yes.
It's weird that like Flyers and Vegas are the 2 teams linked on the 5'8" wing, and then it's like, well, they might trade Nick Hague, and they might trade him a winger for him. And
Flyers are talking to Vegas about a winger for defenseman swap.
It's interesting.
All this stuff.
I would not be as eager to just be like, well, we got Shabanov, he replaces Brink, bye Bobby. But I do acknowledge that, would make the Flyers pretty small in the wing, at least for this year. And I do think that's the reason why I wouldn't necessarily rush to do it, because even if they get Shabanov, it's not like they're going to be competing for the cup. So I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think you can go into the playoffs and you can go into a season where you're trying to win a title with this many small wingers. But for next year, I don't know. Like you could just find out what you have in Shabanov and keep Brink, and then figure, be like, well, if Shabanov sucks, then we're glad we kept Brink. You know what I mean?
If it's a 1-year ELC for Shabanov, right? Because of his age and being a foreign import.
Yes, 24.
Is he a UFA or RFA when it expires?
RFA.
Okay, that's what I thought it was an RFA, but just in case of...
No, you would still...
he's real good, and then, the Florida Panthers want him.
I mean, I think the only way he would be a UFA, and I'd have to go back and look at the CBA, I think if, he only plays, a very small amount of NHL games, then he would be...
And then he's one of those 7.2 UFAs or whatever.
6, I believe, is what it's called.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look and see if that would work for him. But my understanding is that regardless of when you sign, then you are RFA controlled until age 27. Because the rule with RFA control, when you first have the opportunity to declare yourself a UFA, it's either if you spend 7 seasons in the NHL, they're like accrued seasons, I believe is what they're called, or you are 27 by July 1st of the year that you would declare. He would be 25, so he wouldn't be able to declare as UFA. He would still be under Flyers control as an RFA after year 1 ends.
So you would have no problem going into next season with 4 of your top 6 wingers being sub 6 foot.
No, because I acknowledge that it's a bad way to build a team long term. But I don't think you're in a position where you have to necessarily worry about that yet. You can figure out what you have in Shabanov and figure out if Brink takes another step. I wouldn't be, look, if you can get a better player than Nick Hague for Bobby Brink, I'm not opposed to it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm not opposed to trading Bobby Brink. I'm not making Bobby Brink untouchable.
No.
But I don't see the urgency where it's like, oh, we got Shabanov, we got to move Brink, because Shabanov is not a sure thing. And I liked what I saw from Brink last year.
Absolutely. And we talked about that on Friday in terms of just the Brink, the Hague conversation. I'm not out on acquiring Nick Hague. I got time for this. It's just like, what exactly are we going to pay for a guy? And I know that points aren't everything, but a guy that played, 17 minutes last year in a game and scored 12 points. He's got 12 points in each of the last 2 seasons. I need a little, you get paid. He's going to get a raise. You get paid for production. He doesn't really produce. It's just, I just need to know the whole conversation. But I'm far more open to it if they do have a direct Brink replacement. Okay. But as you said, there ain't no guarantees that this guy's an NHL player. Not saying he isn't, But
we just don't know.
Not everyone's game translates.
Exactly.
Plenty of guys do, and there's no problem, and they're real good. They're just as good. And some guys just, not quite there. Yeah, it's just not there. And for a 5'8", 160 or 157 pound winger, he has to be exceptional in order for it to work.
Yeah. And he very well could be. That's why he's excited.
Maybe he is.
That's why he's excited.
I want to see it. I hope they get him. Yeah. That would be really cool. I want to find out. But it is still a risk. Like, and we traded Bobby Brink, and now we don't have him. And we got Shabanov, and he's a 25-point player.
Yeah, he's a guy who by November he's getting scratched by Rick Tocchet, and then we're having should he go to the AHL debate? Will he go to the AHL? I do want to swing this back to the size conversation because this was a topic of conversation on Twitter. You basically had two sections of Twitter on Friday, apparently. You had the one section who was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Great job, Danny. It's going to be announced immediately. Yeah. And then you had another section being like, another 5'8" winger. Like, they only go for small dudes. This is pathetic. The Flyers are a joke. That group annoyed me because it's like, here's my view of the size thing. I do think it matters. I do think that you can't have a team be all small dudes because, number one, it's stylistic redundancy. Number two, bigger players, especially if you play up against a big team in the playoffs, like, probably going to swallow up most of those guys. You need some dudes that
create space,
that bring a different element, that create space for the smaller dudes. I don't want to have a team with no small dudes. I just want to have a team where not the whole team is small dudes. So I acknowledge it's a real concern. But going back to what I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a concern yet. At this point, you're looking for talent. And while throwing an 8-year contract at Mitch Marner and having the possibility of having $35 million tied up in 3 smallish wingers, that concerns me because it's not a short-term, we're just learning and we're just figuring things out. It is this is what our team is going to look like. This is what
our team is.
For the next decade. This is what we're going to be. And that's something you have to seriously consider as to whether that's the way you want your team to look. With Shabanov, you're signing for a year. If he's good, then you adjust. If he's bad, then whatever, you
send him back.
You signed him for a year. It's no big deal. This is a point where you just get, when you don't have to commit to a guy who could be very talented, you commit to the guy who could be very talented all day for the year and see what you have in him. This is the perfect opportunity to take swings at a guy like Shabanov. Who cares that he's 5'8"? If he's real good and he scores 60, 65 points next year for the Flyers, and then you will have to consider signing him to a long-term deal after that, then you have that conversation. But guess what you could also do if you make the decision that, re-signing Shabanov makes us too small? Then you could trade him for real value to maybe get the big forward you need. This is when, if you don't have to commit to a guy long-term who's small, you do it. Because you're like, hey, let's just collect as much talent as possible when we don't have to lock ourselves into that guy forever and then see if it works.
Sometimes you just gotta... All right, let's... I'm sorry, too many jokes through my head right now. Let's take our first commercial break. Got to lead it off with our friends from Ace Hardware Home Services, because Ace Hardware Home Services, they got that. That's right. If you have an outlet you said you'd fix last summer, Ace Hardware Home Services has got the person to do the fixing for you and everything, all the supplies you need for it as well. Because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing and electrical to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long at Ace Hardware Home Services. They're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love from the store, now to your front door from Philly to the Jersey. Sure, listen, it's been heating up outside. It has been humid as hell, and there is absolutely nothing worse than hearing that click, click, click out of your air conditioner. It is a horrifying sound, honestly. I can't imagine living without it, and that's why I love Ace Hardware Home Services. Last year, I had that problem, and guess what? I thought I was going to need a whole new HVAC. I thought this was just a freaking disaster. They came out, assessed the situation. A little bit of labor and like $20 in parts, and boom, problem solved. That's how great Ace Hardware Home Services is. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. And while we're here, it is time to talk about the Hall of Fame app That's right. I have been using the HOF app for all of my parlays recently, and it is so freaking simple to use. What you do, listen, if you're, casual weekend better, just enjoying, have a little bit of something on each game, and there's nothing more fun than those 7-leg parlays, but you're tired of having your heart broken at the end. The HOF app, what they do is assess the legs of your parlay and show you the ones with the biggest possibility of busting out for you. So maybe you don't have that heartbreak at the very end. And the best part, you put your parlay in, it tells you which legs might be weak, which ones are strong. And then with one click, it opens up your sports book of choice and you can place the bet right then and there. I am a big fan of this. It's a statistical model. It's not just, oh yeah, my friends think, someone died, so Nick Castellanos is going to hit a home run today. This is based on data. That's right. And for a limited time only, our listeners not only get a 7-day free trial, but they also get 50% off their first month when they use code PHLY at checkout. Just download the HOF app on iOS and Android or visit hofbets.com, enter code PHLY, and you're all set. Check it out. Strengthening them parlays. All right, Charlie, I think other than, yes, there is this possibility that Maxim Shabanov signs here and he's real freaking good.
Yeah.
But what I think excites me the most, other than the actual potential of the player, is that they are in competition with a team like the Vegas Golden Knights, who, as perennial contender, real good.
Yeah, they're real good.
Team players like to seem to choose to go there quite often, and they are a tax-free state.
Oh, God.
Listen, it's not nothing.
It's not nothing. I know.
It's definitely a factor.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dallas has been to 3 straight Western Conference Finals. A Florida team has won the East 6 years in a row. I don't think it's nothing. That said, the Flyers seem to be the leading contender for this highly sought-after player. And I think that is huge for Danny Briere and the brand. So much we've talked about this. It comes up in every mailbag. Hey, if the Flyers are going to have free agents sign here, get offer sheets signed, trade for established guys, many of whom have some sort of trade protection, someone's going to actually want to have to come here.
Yeah.
And this has not been the most desirable destination.
Sure.
That seems to be turning, and that is very exciting for me. Rick Tocchet, I know we have the ties to Tocchet and everything, but there were better jobs available than the Philadelphia job. He chose this one. That's cool. Whether it works out or not, regardless of what you think of Tocchet as a coach, he was a highly sought-after guy, and he came straight here. That seems cool. We have... maybe, I guess, as Alex Appleyard rated him, the top Euro free agent, looks like he may be coming here. All reports are pointing that way. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah,
but
and he's objectively an exciting guy. He's a guy teams want.
This is maybe the best sign for the overall plan moving forward to me. This offseason, if guys start to choose to come here and this becomes a desirable destination, that creates finally the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, they can do it because it was dependent on this thing that we didn't know was true or not, and it looks like it's true.
Yeah, I think that the Flyers absolutely internally are making themselves... they're never going to be able to recapture what they were under Snyder. And I'm not even talking about the spending of money, although that certainly was part of it. I'm talking about just the feeling of we'll take care of our people forever. You have a job for life. You're a Flyer. You'll if you never want to leave, you never have to leave. It does seem like they are trying to recreate that as best they can. And that does send messages. Also, another thing that sends messages to players is talent. And guess what? Having Matvei Michkov, who looks like he's going to be real good, suddenly you're like, you know what? I wouldn't mind playing with that guy for the next 10 years. That's fun to guys because they watch Michkov doing cool things and scoring 63 points as a rookie and being a highly touted prospect for years. And they're like, suddenly Philadelphia is intriguing. You can't tell me that, and yes, Rick Tocchet, former Flyer in the Flyers Hall of Fame, part of the club. But you can't tell me that part of the reason why he came to Philly wasn't because he wants to coach Matvei Michkov. Like, I'm sure that played into it. If they didn't have Matvei Michkov and their best player is, a 28, 29, or how old is Konechny at this point? He's in his late 20s. But if their best player is Travis Konechny, is Rick Tocchet like, you know what, guys? Jonesy, I love you. You're my bud for life. But, like, you guys ain't winning anything anytime soon.
He turned 28 in March.
I don't know if Tocchet becomes the coach if Michkov ain't there, because Michkov makes your team more exciting. And also, and this is the other side of it, Michkov makes your team more exciting to Russians specifically. And that's important because Shabanov, obviously a Russian.
Yes, and that's another part of this, like, for the longest time, we thought, like, Bobby Clark, Ed Snyder, whatever, that regime, he was like, they don't want foreign players. They definitely don't want Russian guys. Yeah. Like,
I think it was more Russians than anything else.
This is a North American.
Because like Pele was.
There were some exceptions, and like the league has just gotten more international than it was even in 1997 or whatever. But like it just kind of felt like this is a North American boys club. Will only certain Americans get in?
Fair.
Like John LeClaire, you're in because you're a power forward, but we'll see. Jeremy Roenick, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, though.
Paul Holmgren's American.
Yeah.
He's American.
It was a North American boys club, it felt. And now suddenly, like, even despite the Kolosov situation, like, Matvei Michkov kind of arranged it so he would fall to us. At least told some teams, nah, leave me alone. Not coming. Don't worry about it. And then
Arizona
comes over early. Yeah, like comes over early when everyone was afraid. Oh, it's going to be 3 years. It was one. It was 1 year.
1 year.
And not only like there was the entire situation that they were able to handle and ultimately resolve with Fedotov. And last year, even they go out into the international free agent market. Now, these aren't game-breaking guys, but Abels looks like he can play in the NHL a little. Oscar Eklund, who cares? But like they gave it a shot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It seems like they are more interested than ever in expanding the talent pool and the search, opening it up to we are not just looking for this one thing. And as much as they know they have to be like a bigger team, a tough team, it's like, but we also very much value talent and having a pool as big as possible. And we said this before the show. You brought it up. We have criticized them in terms of their front office, management, coach pool for shrinking it. Like, oh, well, they have to have gone here. They have to have some sort of tie to the organization. And, hey, maybe Danny Briere is a freaking genius, and who cares? But typically, if you only allow yourself this big when you have this much, well, that just lowers your chance of success because you don't have... They're doing the opposite in terms of searching for talent.
Yes, because with Russia, and this is something that came up in Corey Pronman's Draft Confidential article at The Athletic this morning. Really interesting. It's got a lot of information. Basically what the article is, and he does it every year. He gets probably like about 15 to 20 scouts and executives in the NHL to speak anonymously, but quote them directly about their view of the draft and their view of the players and the tiers and things like that. So you get a lot of interesting information. Really what it shows you is just how different every team views the guys at the top. Because you'll have some guys being like, oh yeah, Brady Martin, he's our second best forward on our board. And then some guys are like, yeah, Brady Martin, he's a middle six wing. Like there is a lot of differences in terms of the way different teams and even different scouts within the same team view these guys. So very interesting article. If you're a subscriber to The Athletic, highly recommend. But there was a very interesting quote from an anonymous executive for an NHL team talking about the goalies. So he's talking about Joshua Ravensbergen, who is the generally accepted to be top goalie prospect in the draft. And it starts out with, Ravensbergen is a late 1, high 2, as in rounds, type of goalie. The two Russian goalies, Frolov and Andrianov, look so good on video. And then this is the money quote. If we felt comfortable taking Russians, we would have them as second-round picks, implying that whatever team this executive works for, they just won't take Russian players, maybe beyond.
And definitely not that high.
Definitely not like in those, second round, late first. Like maybe if there's like a Michkov, they're obviously going to scout it.
Sure.
But they're not going to be mining the, Igor Zavragins of the draft world in a given year because they just don't feel like going through the hassle and the risk. So there are teams in the NHL that just have removed all Russian players from their plausible draft pick pool. The Flyers, on the other hand, it very much appears, are leaning all in, which is exciting because, let's talk about like the OHL. Every team in the NHL is heavily scouting the OHL. Everybody's watching tons of games. Everyone's getting to know the players. The chances of you finding an OHLer in round 4 or round 5 who just slipped through the cracks, very unlikely because everyone's scouting them, everyone's watching them. Chances of you finding a guy in the MHL or the VHL or whatever in round 4 who shouldn't be in round 4, who should actually be in round 2, significantly higher when only 15 teams are scouting those guys versus 32. That's exciting, and it seems like the Flyers not only are one of the teams that are scouting those worlds, they are one of the teams that's spending the most money scouting those worlds. Because, like, there's a difference between, like, oh, yeah, we got a guy watching tape of MHL games, and the Flyers who have Ken Hudakov as boots on the ground in Russia, and, like, they also have a decent understanding of, like, how to navigate the oligarch world of getting Michkov over earlier. The Flyers are clearly investing both from a money standpoint, a time standpoint, and also just from a learning the lay of the land standpoint in Russia. And that's exciting to me because that might be where you can find some diamonds in the rough. They may have already found one in Zafragan.
And that's like, you look at a star in the league, Kirill Kaprizov, like MVP favorite before he got hurt this year. 5th round pick. Like, that happens so much less, like you said, with North American guys, because everybody is scouting the OHL. If there is going to be one of those guys that slips through, is a good chance it's because only half the teams in the league are even over there, like physically over there. And to the point now about Shabanov, like, why may he be considering the Flyers like over a perennial contender like the Vegas Golden Knights? Well, because they've established relationships with Russians over there. Like, they've had conversations with them. He's seen them at other, like, he's seen their success with Michkov. He's seen them bring over Kolosov and Fedotov. Like, there's a tangible, like, I know them, and so I'm more willing to have a conversation with them. And like, you're there, you can do it. Yeah. This is one of those ways we always say, yes, with the hard cap, there is no more advantage. And in fact, some of those smaller market teams with the tax advantages, the hard cap may actually benefit them more than the big money teams. But the Flyers and, the Rangers, the Leafs, teams like that have this advantage of, yeah, man, we got a dude who lives over there. Like, it's all good. Yeah. Like, we're not watching VHS of this guy. Like, oh yeah, freaking, this looks like I'm watching Pavel Bure highlights.
Yeah, like, he looks cool.
This is actual. Yeah, we have relationships on the ground there, and that seems to be benefiting the Flyers right now. We'll see how it all works out.
Yeah, one thing before we do our quick break, Eli in our chat made a good point, and this is a legitimately interesting point about the international play, the fact that Russia is not allowed an international play right now. And while I assume at some point down the road they will be, they will get back into World Juniors and World Championships and the Olympics. Doesn't seem like it's going to happen in the next year or so, and it hasn't been the case for a few years. In a way, that actually does benefit the Flyers because you look at it and you say, a lot of these small market teams that don't have the money to scout Russia heavily, they normally still get to see all the Russians in all the international tournaments. Now they don't.
Great point.
Now they don't. Now, if you want to scout Russia, you got to be in Russia. You got to go to Russia. You got to have the funding. You got to have scouts that are knowledgeable and know the guys, the coaches, know the GMs. You got to actually have an investment rather than just like show up at World Juniors and be like, oh yeah, that Michkov kid rules.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit harder. And while this won't be an advantage forever, because eventually Russia will get back into the IHF, I assume, for now, it's an advantage, and the Flyers should do their best to take advantage of it while it's there.
All right, and before we go any further, let us take our second commercial break. 1-800-588-2300 Empire. I've been telling you for how long now? I can't even keep track. The Empire Today is the place to get your new flooring. Considering anything else, quite honestly, it seems foolish because Empire Today, They've got flooring experts. They live and breathe flooring. It is nothing like the big box store experience where you go in, even if you can find someone to help you, which good luck. They have no idea what they're talking about because yesterday they were stocking light bulbs, and tomorrow it's going to be their turn to bring orders out to people for the curbside pickup, but not at Empire today because their experts live and breathe flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way in the purchasing and installation of your new flooring. Their flooring experts, well, they can also bring the showroom right to your home so you can pick the right flooring and see how the right colors look for your space, in your space, see how it all looks up against your furniture in your house, your paint colors, all that. Make sure it all works, and you can get the precise measurements taken for you and have all your questions answered so there are never any surprises. With Empire today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. And PHLY listeners, listen up because you can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right. $350 off with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details. While we're here, Father's Day right around the corner. You got to get over to Art of Words because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and one local Philly artist is proving it with pieces made entirely from handwritten words, like the name of every Eagle forming the link or every Philly shaping Citizens Bank Park. And they do more than just sports. They've captured Boathouse Row, Reading Terminal, Philly Skyline, Jersey Shore, and so much more. And these unforgettable gifts are great for sports fans, grads, Father's Day, or any occasion. These started becoming a real thing when they were sold at the K-Lot and Rice's Flea Market. And Philly fans have really launched the career of the Art of Words artist. And they're available for dozens of other teams and cities too, so there's something for everyone. They're absolutely great conversation starters. You'll spot one name in these, then another. Soon everyone's reliving their favorite sports memories. And who doesn't love just naming some guys and having that conversation? That's what Art of Words is in an aesthetically pleasing artwork. So check it out at artofwords.com. That's artofwords.com. And use code PHLY at checkout for 15% off your purchase. Get those Father's Day orders in now. Do it. Father's Day hasn't passed already, has it?
It is not.
I didn't miss
next weekend.
I didn't miss it.
No, you're good.
Thank God.
You're good.
Ooh, that would be...
Yeah, it's Sunday. You
All
got
right.
time.
Still got time. All right, Charlie. I think that's good on that whole conversation.
Yeah, I think we talked about everything that is important about the Shabanov stuff before Shabanov actually makes a decision.
Does or doesn't actually sign here. Yeah. I'm glad we were able to get some Shabanov in just in case he doesn't, and we were able to kill a day with Shabanov. That's important.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some draft and combine stuff, Charlie.
Yeah, the combine was last week. It is now over, but there's always a lot of news that comes from the combine. And today we had great articles. I already mentioned the one from Corey Pronman at The Athletic, which was released today. We had another mock draft from Scott Wheeler where he dropped in tidbits of information that he's learned from his time at the combine. And then Cam Robinson of VP Rinkside also posted an article about his, kind of like what I've been hearing. Came away with a lot of interesting information, but one thing that we did hear is the Flyers were they were dropping some money on some nice dinners up there in Buffalo. The three players we've gotten confirmed that were taken out to dinner by the Philadelphia Flyers in Buffalo. We have Brantford Bulldogs center Jake O'Brien, obviously the connection with Jay McKee. Jay McKee, former teammate of Danny Briere, is the head coach at Brantford. We have Brampton Steelheads, Brantford Bulldogs, Brampton Steelheads. Gotta love the OHL. Brampton Steelheads winger Porter Martone, and then Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound center wing, Brady Martin.
Brady Martin.
Those are the three that apparently the Flyers took out to dinner while at the combine.
They interviewed and met with most of the draft, it sounds like.
Yes.
If you have been mocked in the top 25, the Flyers met with you.
Yes, Jackie Spiegel actually. Yeah. So Jackie was up there. The Inquirer always sends their beat writer up to the combine, so she was there. I will read the list that she tweeted out. Misa, Frondell, Hagens, Martone, Denoyer, Eklund, Hensler, Spence, Boumediene, Vansagi, Fiddler, Potter, Martin, O'Brien, McQueen, Brustevich, Aitchison, Ravensbergen, Wong, Carbonneau, Nestrasil, Bear, Horkoff, Amico, and Mertka.
I don't know if I can name anyone else in this
draft. And they may
draft.
have met with more.
Yeah, and there may be more. This is just like what Jackie could get confirmed for the tweet.
Yep.
And then she, probably ran out of characters. It is like they met with all these guys, all the interviews, everything. But the dinners themselves, like, this is different than like the NFL draft. Like I'll always remember the report. Like Howie and Doug and Jeffrey Lurie. It was like, yeah, they went out to dinner with Carson Wentz and like they're doing this thing. Like they moved up. They went out to like this is what they're doing, and it's gonna be Wentz. Like, is it? I feel like we just get more reports of dinners and stuff like that because it's just less formal in the NHL. Like, do you think this tells us anything? Like, okay, they met with all these guys. They interviewed, again, like 30 people here. And they have a ton of picks. Makes sense. See which way you want to go. But the fact that they actually took the time to go to dinner with Martin, O'Brien, and Martone, what do you think that tells you? Anything?
It tells you that they're interested in these guys. Then they want to learn more about them as people. Also, these are three guys. Martin, well, there are three guys who have a legitimately good chance of being there at 6. Like, it's interesting to me that they didn't necessarily go for like Frondell and Denoyer, who I think are less likely to be there at 6, but are two guys that I suspect they like a lot. Denoyer, they probably didn't even have to because it's just like, well, I can just call up Elliot and
we've been to dinner with you.
We'll just call up the guy who's in our organization and we can hit up a steakhouse. Like that's fine. But interesting that they went with guys like Martone could be there at 6. It's looking more and more possible he could be there at 6. Martin, while we'll talk about him in a few minutes, the assumption is like there was a decent chance he's going to be there at 6. And Jake O'Brien, I expect him to be there at 6. I don't think it says that one of these three are definitely going to be the pick, but it definitely tells you that they're interested in all three. Like you don't even look. I know Comcast is a extremely wealthy, conglomerate that has a ton of money, but like you're not going to just like charge a couple grand or however much it was to go to the nice steakhouse, like just to be like, yeah, we have no interest in Brady Martin, but like, hey, expense us $10,000.
At least these guys can't.
I don't know.
At least these guys can't drink.
That's
so there's
fair.
no.
That's fair.
There's no like it's in Buffalo, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean they probably went out for wings. I assume there's.
I assume there are nice steakhouses. I assume there are nice steakhouses. So they're dropping at least a few thousand for like the kid, his parents, all of the brass. Like it's probably about like a 10-person meal, and that when everybo's spending $200, it gets a little expensive.
But,
just saying.
Yeah, this is like our dinner in Montreal. It's $200 a person. This is so this is kind of the way it looks like they're going, and there's we know who's the general idea of who may or may not be available in this spot. And we're gonna have an interview I did with Rachel Dory up, and she recently put out her second to last draft ranking, I believe, is what she did.
Okay.
So her most recent piece. She has one more coming, and she ranked Frondell 6th. In the conversation with her, I was like, "Do you really?" She's like, "I'm probably not going to be there at 6, but it looks like things are shaping up where he could be." And I asked what the best case scenario was, and she said, without a doubt, James Hagens at 6 is the best case scenario. It really feels like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
At least he's there. Not that they're going to definitely take him, but it really feels like a possibility.
It's a legitimate possibility, and this is what because if you remember, in that very first mock draft I did after the lottery, I mocked Hagens to 6. And the reason why I did, and I said this on the show, wasn't necessarily that I was certain he was going to be there at 6, but I wanted to make a statement that, like, it's more possible than a lot of people think. And now people are kind of coming around to my way of thinking that this could actually happen. What I've heard coming out of the Combine is that it's unlikely that anybody in the top 4 is going to take Hagens. It doesn't seem like Chicago's going that route. Utah, while Scott Wheeler did say in his mock draft that, a lot of teams don't think Utah is going to do it. I've heard that they're legitimately considering Hagens. I've more been hearing that, unlikely. that, with Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley as key guys on that team, they don't want to add another guy who fits that same stylistic way, because that is not even just small forward. Like, Hagens plays similarly to those guys. That is like, we're talking stylistic redundancy there. So what I've heard is that Nashville is the first team where you're like, yeah, maybe they could, but
one team,
maybe not. Like, maybe they like somebody else better. Maybe they're a Brady Martin team. Maybe, as Scott Wheeler mocked in his draft today, maybe they take the swing on Porter Martone because, Barry Trotz likes the, big physical guys and sees a really, really high upside player, which I agree, Martone's real good. But if Nashville, who I do think ultimately is going to take a center, if they like Martin or Jake O'Brien or Porter Martone better, then suddenly Hagens, he's there at 6. And Scott Wheeler in his mock draft today did have the Flyers taking James Hagens at 6. This obviously opens the same question, though, we were talking about with Shabanov, which is Hagens ain't the biggest dude. Now, he's not tiny, but what did he measure in at 5'10 and a half, I think, at the Combine?
I believe it was 5'10.
So it's going to get rounded up to 5'11, but we're not talking about a huge guy. Would the Flyers be willing to make that pick and have potentially your 2 star-level players for the foreseeable future be 5'10", 5'11" Matvei Michkov, 5'9", maybe Matvei Michkov, depending upon what you believe his height is, and then 5'10", 5'11" James Hagens? Personally, I would say just take it. I have Hagens ranked 3rd on my board. I love him. I love the upside. I think he has star-level potential. But you can't deny the Florida effect and the fear of, if those are your 2 best players for the foreseeable future, might you struggle to win in the playoffs? It could be a concern for the Flyers.
It's just like when I see a guy who he won't be 19 till November, so maybe a little old, but still
he's old for his year, yeah.
Like,
he is.
But he just finished his freshman year in college, and he's 5'11", 185. That's what he at least is listed on Elite Prospects. While he's not what you would consider a big player, that's not small. Like, when the average is 6'1", 200, like, it's not as if he is a wee little guy running around out there.
That's true.
There's still plenty of room to bulk up, put on some muscle, as all draft eligible players need to do. Like, every single guy in this draft needs to get bigger and stronger. That's what every single scout is going to tell them. Yeah, man, we need you to put on 10, 15, 20 pounds and really hit the gym hard the next few summers. And then you'll be, of NHL side. But 5'11", 185 for an 18-year-old is not small. Is he a giant? Is he going to physically dominate anybody, especially, in the early portion of his career? Doubtful. But I don't see 5'11", 185 as, he's going to get killed.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want big physical guys. That is my preference. But if James Hagens a year ago, Charlie, was the consensus number 1, and more than anything, it's okay, some guys jumped up. Some guys had big years. Like, we have, players who, had the exception in the OHL. Okay, these are exceptional status players. Maybe they are better. But we talk about this, I think, especially in, again, for the NFL draft, because I think it's something everyone is kind of familiar with. That consensus number 1 quarterback, always in those few weeks leading up, it's like, well, actually, there's something the matter with him. And this guy over here that you heard about for the first time 2 weeks ago, he's the best one on the board. There just becomes that fatigue factor. And I just wonder how much of that has happened with Hagens, on top of he wasn't Bedard or Celebrini in his freshman year, and that's okay. So he's not that.
Yeah.
He's
especially not Celebrini.
Yes.
Celebrini was the guy who went the college route and tore up in college.
Yeah.
So I think there was an expectation after how good Hagens played in his draft -1 year that he was going to do that. And when he didn't, it just opened up the door for some nitpicking.
And then, but even then, you see him at World Juniors, he did have 9 points in 7 games.
He was good
for a pretty damn good USA team.
Yeah, he was real good.
I don't know. He's he seems as if he's kind of fallen. And if you can get a guy who should go 1, 2, or 3 at 6, I think you have to do it regardless of any redundancy.
And in fairness, that is what Wheeler says. Wheeler, in his little blurb, because again, this is coming from talking with people, in his little blurb for justifying the Hagens pick in his mock draft, says he thinks the Flyers like Hagens, and that if Hagens is there, he would be the pick. That said, he notes like, well, they went out to dinner with Martin and O'Brien. They could be options too, but it seems like he is hearing that the Flyers do like Hagens, that it's not like they have knocked Hagens off their board.
He's not off their board.
Because of size concerns, because of stylistic concerns. So Wheeler has the Flyers taking Hagens at number 6. He has the Flyers at 22, which is actually the same pick I had the Flyers taking in my mock draft, my most recent one, the full first round. Jack Nesbitt, big center, brings size to the table. I like Nesbitt. I don't have him as high as 22. But the reason why I feel like he might make sense for the Flyers is I actually like his skills. I think he maybe has more skills than he gets credit for. He's not a good skater. But the Flyers historically don't seem to mind that. They seem to believe that they can fix skating or at least improve it to the point where it's not a problem. And if they see Nesbitt as a middle 6 center rather than a bottom 6 center, I don't think they will be scared away by the fact that he's not that great of a skater. Then at 32, he has the Flyers taking Shane Vansagi, another power forward prospect. I like Vansagi. I do.
Another solid name.
Yeah, he's big. I like the net front upside there. You could potentially get your net front guy. There's a lot of things to like about Vansagi. Some people see him as more of a great bottom sixer. I think if all breaks right for him, and again, skating, another concern with him too. If all breaks right for him, I could see a middle sixer, and that would be you get the smallish guy in Hagens, and you get the 2 big guys in Nesbitt and Vansagi, 2 guys who, maybe wouldn't be my picks, but aren't guys who I would be super critical of. I like both prospects to a degree. Then before we get into Super Chats, just want to run through some of the reports that we got from the Combine. Brady Martin apparently was very impressive at the Combine.
Brady Martin is not going to be available at 6. That is my guess here.
Cam Robertson had the big report. He says he'd be shocked if Martin goes later than 7 to Boston, does not think he falls past the Bruins at 7, and he hints that Utah at 4, real possibility. He thinks Utah likes him a lot. So Brady Martin continues to build on his momentum. Seems like he's just a very likable guy in interviews. He's got real charisma. So teams ate that up. Hagens, Nashville apparently asked for extra time with him at the Combine per Cam Robinson. So again, I think that's a logical spot for him. Nashville wanted to learn more. That's intriguing. Wheeler did say that Utah at 4 is at least considering him, but we'll see. Then going to Victor Eklund, a guy who we talked about, I believe, last week. Wheeler got the sense around the Combine that Eklund will slip further than expected. In his mock draft, he had him going 15 to Vancouver. 15. If he slips that far, you got to wonder if the Flyers consider trading up to get him, because I suspect that Eklund, while he's small, does fit a lot of what the Flyers tend to appreciate in their scouting rooms. Then you had Pronman and Draft Confidential. One of the scouts, when asked who might slip, also said Victor Eklund, small winger without elite offense. Those types tend to fall. He's top 10 on almost every list, but I can almost guarantee that won't happen on draft day. And then last thing, 2 guys who seem like they have some helium right now. Cameron Reed, 6-foot-ish, smallish defenseman, puck mover. Seems like he is boosting up draft boards. And Lyndon Lakovich, who is a big winger. Good hockey name. Love the double letters, first name, last name. I'm not as big of a fan of him. I don't necessarily love his style, despite the fact that he's big and has the physical tools. Spends a little bit too much time on the perimeter for my liking, but it seems like scouts are boosting him in their estimation to the point where he might go in the early teens rather than the mid-teens, which is generally where people assumed he was going to go a few weeks ago.
All right, that is the latest on the draft combine stuff. We will have plenty of that conversation coming your way as we make our way towards June 27th in the first round of that draft. Before we hit Super Chats, got to tell you about the Stanley Cup Ball Knowers bonus. That's right. I wish we had Amanda read today. But this is, we're going to change this to the Puck Knowers bonus. Do you think you know puck? Well, we've got another Puck Knower bonus that I'd like to tell you about. For each game of the Stanley Cup Final, all you have to do is pick the winner of the game, and you can win a gift card to the PHLY merch store if you make your pick correctly. Here's how it works. First, all you got to do is click the link in the description below and then make your pick. In the description of the show, either on YouTube or in the podcast description, there is a link for the Ball Knowers bonus. Click it. Then place an order in the All City merch store for $25 or more. If you pick the game correctly, then you get a gift card to the merch store for the same amount as your original order. So pick the winner of the game, make the purchase, and then if you're right, you basically get a BOGO sale. You get a gift card for what you already spent. So here are your options. Option 1, tonight, Oilers. Option 2, Panthers. It's that easy. All things in life are 50-50, and with 2 overtime games through the first 2, it's basically a 50-50 choice. Pick one or the other. So again, for the puck knowers, make the pick, then place an order. If you pick correctly, you're going to get a gift card for the same amount as your order. That's the ball knower bonus from PHLY. All on-sale items are eligible for this promotion so long as the value of the order is $25 or more at checkout. And check out that link in the description. All right.
Speaking of overtime.
We're headed to overtime. I really was, was really hoping we'd get it in before the hour changed, and we did it. All right, let's get those super chats. Lead it off with Tyler Heath. Says probability of Shabanov signing, any online draft hangouts, events, chats, etc.
As I've said, generally speaking, when there's a lot of smoke, I mean, usually things play out. There was a lot of smoke around Kolosov not being happy in Allentown. That ultimately proved out. There was a lot of smoke around michkov coming to the Flyers after 1 year. That ultimately played out. Generally speaking, when there's a lot of smoke, there's fire. But I just want to make it clear that nothing is done.
Simple enough. All right. It's not happened yet. I kind of expect it to, but if it's not official, that means anything could happen.
Yep.
Until then, in terms of online draft hangouts, let's don't know about anything online, but we will be having a live show at the draft party. So, of course, you're free to join us right here on the YouTube page for that if you can't come to Chickies and Pete's on Friday, June 27th for the party. All right, from Catholic Nano, says Brady Martin moving up in a lot of mocks. If he goes 4 to Utah, as some have suggested, Martin may fall. Who do you take between Martin and Desnoyers?
It's an interesting question. I'm
a Martin believer in that situation.
Martin 4. I have Desnoyers 6. It would be tough. I feel like I probably go Martin. But to be clear, the Flyers 100% would go Desnoyers. Because I think they really like Desnoyers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just don't think Desnoyers is going to be there at 6.
Interesting. All right. That is okay.
And I think both players are good.
Yeah. Listen, in this tier, it's really kind of personal preference, I feel like. Yeah. And perhaps like just the Desnoyers name, I'm like, I don't know. I don't like Elliott that much. So, but the Flyers, despite his fall as a player, like him very much personally. And so like that.
And there's a feeling that like the Desnoyers family, it's just like these are super high character dudes.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see how that goes. Personally, I'd go Martin. We'll see what the Flyers would do. All right. Another one. Oh, okay. From Hockey Dentist 128. Hi, guys. What do you think the plan is with Peltier? Doesn't seem worthy of a roster spot this year compared to others, but wanted to get your take.
I disagree, actually. I think he played quite well at the end of the season, especially after John Tortorella was let go. And I think he very much should be in the mix. Now, do I think he necessarily should be playing every night?
Yeah, no, he's an 82-game guy. He isn't earning
He's got to earn it. He's got to earn it by playing well. But he showed me a decent amount at the end of the year once the guy who just had decided within like 2 practices that he couldn't play was gone. I expect that they will qualify him at the very least and give him another look. But hey, if there's a team that wants him in a trade, if they get Shabanov and keep Brink, maybe they give him a look somewhere else and they're like, hey, you just don't fit anymore. I like Peltier, though. I think I like him more than Hockey Dentist 28 does.
Also, there's this thing where maybe they don't carry 3 goalies this year and they have room for an extra.
Bill, I really hope not. Like, I really hope they don't carry 3 goalies.
Yeah,
that was exhausting.
I think we've gotten into this because they did it for half the year a couple years ago and they did it for a lot of this season, carrying 3 goaltenders that like, okay, we have 1 extra forward and 1 extra defenseman. What if we have a 3rd extra skater and they're not carrying this extra goalie? So like, just because he's on the roster doesn't mean he has to play every night. And we'll see if he earns it through camp and practice throughout the season and all that. But I saw something from Peltier, but it's not as if I'm like, pencil him in the top 9.
I agree with that.
Like, I don't know.
I just think that, like, I'm not ready to say he doesn't deserve a roster spot. I think he showed that he's NHL caliber, and I want to see more.
We'll see also, like, who else is in contention to make the team, what else they could possibly add this offseason. As of now, I like him on the roster, but I also have no idea who's going to be here in September. All right. From Eli Shaka says, for players that move from juniors to the NCAA after being drafted, do they have the same CBA ability to choose their team, which is essentially
he's talking about that. Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't, because the only way they can go to the NCAA is if they haven't yet signed a contract.
Yeah.
And if they haven't yet signed a contract, they could theoretically exhaust their eligibility and pick their team. Yeah.
Which would be interesting to see if some guys just are like, after they turn 20, they transfer and go, I'm waiting it out. But
you'd be waiting until age 24.
They are waiting so long.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that goes. All right. From Purple Crayon. With all these small players, it'd be really cool to see the Flyers take a 6'5" center.
Oh, yeah, Purple Crayon. With
Roger McQueen.
Still beating that Roger McQueen jump.
Yeah. What is, like, I feel like I didn't hear much about McQueen coming out. Like, everyone else had more reports, and this is, like, the guy I wanted to know about from the Combine. Like, perhaps that's, everyone else keeping their stuff under wraps because maybe he's their big swing that they don't want to let any info leak. I feel like I didn't hear as much about McQueen as I was hoping.
There were some rumblings that, like, it seems like people were relatively satisfied, but it's going to come down to a team-by-team opinion.
It's going to be a team doctor situation.
Of, how confident are we? Going back to that last question, though, from Eli, one thing that's interesting to think about is, and obviously Flyers fans dealt with this more than probably most fan bases just because of what happened with Cutter Gauthier, but I feel like, especially last year, and even this year, you hear it sometimes, there is a bit of a, like, ooh, do you really want to take a guy going to college? Because I don't want to have the Cutter Gauthier thing happen again. Now, the CHL, the guys that you drafted the CHL could do that too. So it's almost like, does it even matter anymore? Because, like, you could draft a guy who's in the CHL now who next year goes to college and then does that anyway. Yeah. So it's not like CHL guys are necessarily safer than the college guys.
After a year or two of dealing with this 2027 draft, top 10 picks, all Russian. You never lose Russian player. You never lose their rights.
You never lose their rights.
You never lose a Russian player's rights. We're going to draft 100.
Flyers are ahead of the curve.
Top 7 picks, all Russians.
Oh, we're at 279 likes. Let's get to 300, gang. Let's get to 300.
279 live for a Monday afternoon. Way to go, everybody. But let's get to 3 before we wrap up. All right, and finally, from Linden49, Utah is interested in Martin at 4, just saying. Now, maybe he's got, as you would say, so much helium that anyone, like, if they were to trade down, they'd be afraid, like, he goes. But Brady Martin, like, going in the top 10, especially the top 5, like, if you're Utah, okay, we love this guy, we want him. Is there an opportunity for that? I don't even know if it makes sense for the Flyers, like, because, okay, if you're not taking Martin, we basically think everyone in the same tier. It just comes to personal preference. But, like, shouldn't they try to trade down if they're taking a guy who isn't a consensus top 5 pick in the top 5?
I mean, yes, but also maybe Nashville likes Martin too. It's possible that they would be worried that, because let's say it plays out where Chicago takes Frondell. So Desnoyers is sitting there at 4. Flyers love Desnoyers. They want to trade up to 4. So it's like, okay, well, we're not going to take Martin. Would Utah feel confident enough that Nashville doesn't like Martin? I mean, he does seem like a Barry Trotz type player.
Does.
Would they be confident enough that he gets past Nashville at 5 to fall down 2 spots? I'm not sure. There's a reason why top 5 picks rarely get traded, and it's because teams just want their guy.
Yeah.
They want their guy, and they want to be sure they're getting their guy.
All right.
We got up to 300.
We got to 300.
Good job,
wow,
gang.
That was incredible.
Love it.
It took like a minute. All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Make sure, if you haven't already, go to allphly.com right now and get your draft party tickets. The reason that we have to charge the $5 for the general admission is because we need some sort of capacity limiting vehicle, and this is what we're doing here. Last year, we went so far over capacity that we needed to do this. So make sure if you're just trying to get the general admission, you do it now. And if you're looking for a little bit of an upgrade for $55, that's right, a mere $55, you can get the VIP experience. We're going to have Play 2 to ourselves at Chickies and Pete's, and you're going to get a 3-hour open bar, food, and a meet and greet with the one and only Flyers legend, Bernie Parent. 3-hour open bar, $55. You're ahead. You're ahead. And with the Flyers, having 3 picks, it's going to be a long night. So you're going to want to take advantage of that situation. But whether you want the GA or the VIP, go to allphly.com now and get your tickets before they sell out. All right, that's it for us. That is Charlie O'Connor. I am Bill Matz. Until tomorrow, let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.